Okay, we'd like to welcome to the podcast today, Margie McCarthy. Margie is founder and president of McCarthy Messaging. You changed that. Did you change that recently?
Yes.
Yes, you did. That's right.
Yes.
A Denver-based...
We're on the verge of changing it, I should say.
We're on the verge of a rebrand.
Yeah.
A Denver-based communications firm that helps healthcare organizations nail their message. I love that. She and her team have developed a proprietary process for building message platforms that unify teams and create momentum. Love it. Whether it's for a company division, a program, an important initiative, or an industry issue, a clear, compelling message helps a company stand out and move ahead of its competition.
That was a long one.
It was a long one. No, you're fine. In her personal life, Margie is the mother of 2 teenagers. Oh, that's right. I forget you have teenagers. And a Labradoodle.
Yes.
We love dogs.
She's sweet. Cooperative.
Floppy.
Yeah.
They're floppy.
They're very floppy.
That she and her husband refer to as the blonde toddler. I love that. That is awesome. Well, welcome to the podcast, Margie. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Jamie. Glad to be here with you.
I love it.
I've watched these and it just looks like a good time.
I hope it's a good time. I have a good time, so I hope everybody else does too. All right. So my first question is always the same because it's my favorite.
Yeah.
What was your very first job?
My very first job, you are going to laugh at this one.
I know, that's why I love this question.
My very first job was as a bank teller.
Yes, I can
Numbers.
Totally see that.
You can see that? I can't see that.
It's just minus and subtract.
And it was a lot of dealing with the public, too, I have to say. You know,
Yeah.
people walking in, all walks of life. And it was in downtown Chicago, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a friend of my parents was a vice president at this bank, and I was able to get a job on the teller line, and I was probably the youngest person, just working summers and so forth. But it was a great experience, I think, in terms of dealing with all kinds of different people, and also all the discipline of working with money and having to balance out and so forth. I wasn't the greatest at it, I will admit, but it was, just one of those life experiences, I think, that taught me to be very careful, with the numbers, which is what I have to do today, even with my small business.
All right. I love that. And it's always like the service industry ones, like our helpers are the people that end up doing like those first like service industry things.
Is that what you found?
Yeah, I do. My first job was waiting tables. So,
there we go.
You know, we have a lot of like just dealing with different kind of people and like understanding how to, deal with different personalities. And it's hugely, immensely
it is
helpful.
It prepares you for the rest of life, which is always dealing with people and personalities no matter what you do.
Exactly.
Really.
Although maybe I could just just kidding. Can I say something in my beard?
You can't.
No. So I went through your LinkedIn to get to know you a little more. And you worked at the Dayton Daily News in college.
Oh my gosh,
and
I did.
You have a degree in journalism. What was your big dream with journalism? We're going to be like an international correspondent, or like what did that look like at 18 or 19?
Gosh, I wonder what it looked like exactly. I think I very quickly learned after college that I didn't want to be on the reporting side of things because I think I wasn't tough enough, honestly. Because you really have to get in there and get in people's faces, and sometimes I have to put people in an uncomfortable position to do that. And I just knew that wasn't for me. But going through college, I think the reason I ended up in that major was because English and writing and history, all those kinds of things were my cup of tea. And they were the things that naturally came easily to me. So I thought, well, where can I put that to use? And journalism reporting came to mind most easily. So that's how I kind of ended up there. But what was my big dream? I guess, what did I envision myself doing? I don't know that it was like, cracking investigative stories or anything like that. I wish I had a better answer to that.
No, I just was wondering because, I always kind of like have this like pipe dream sometimes when I pick a major.
Do you know, I can tell you, though, that at that internship that summer, probably the part that I enjoyed about it the most was being on the part of the internship was spent on the the city desk where you're going out for daily assignments and so forth. And the other part was with the features department. And I really did like the features department and the kinds of stories about people's lives. And actually, I have never, ever thought about that before, but I could draw a direct line from that to kind of what we do today.
Absolutely.
Because it's telling stories. It's highlighting what was unique about people and situations. I think I covered a story about a couple who, back where I went to college, which was also in Ohio, Miami of Ohio, there were a lot of Miami mergers, people that would date in college and get married, lots of people. And so I think I went back to do some story about this big wedding, couple from Miami getting married underneath the arch, the big Miami arch. And there was another story about, they were so diverse. There's another story. I literally went like in a basement with these punk rocker guys, and they like played a set for me because I was doing a story on their like emerging, band and local bands in Dayton, Ohio. So it was such a range of stories, but what it really came down to is people in their lives and what they were doing that was different and unique. And I suppose today, that's what we do on a corporate level, help explain what's different and unique about your business and what you're doing. So that was long. And
I love it.
But I've never even thought about that before.
Yeah, we've been drawing a lot of lines lately. It's really, really fun to
people's
be
past to their present.
Like, how does it inform what you're doing now and, your why and how that all works together. I love it. So how did you end up in healthcare communications? So you've been doing healthcare communications for almost 30 years. Yes,
I know. Isn't that horrific?
That
30. 30 is a long time. 30 makes me feel old, but that's the reality of it. And what happened was I moved out to Boulder for the summer, quote unquote, right after college. And I remember calling back home to my mom and dad and saying, it is so beautiful out here. You can't imagine. I want to stay. And I'd never been west of the Mississippi, literally. So I found a job in Denver at a small PR firm where we did a little bit of everything. But the circumstance was that it was a very tiny firm, and the fellow that was running the Denver office here had come from a hospital PR and marketing background. So naturally, he was interested in bringing on and had the connections to bring on other healthcare accounts. So I just sort of fell into it. But the reason I loved it and stuck with it, in addition to just kind of then you meet people and one thing leads to another, but it's a industry that has been continually changing, and it does at its root, it does have to do with people and their well-being, and just quality of life is based so much on your health and what you can do to stay healthy or get healthier. And so it just had that appeal to me, and I stuck with it. And it's never been a dull moment because things change, frequently in that field. So that's how I got into it, and sort of why I stuck with it. Really interesting, always something new to learn.
I love it. And you're telling people stories.
Actually, yes. Yeah. What we do, should I kind of segue into kind of what we do?
Yeah, because my next question was, some of your favorite projects and, what those look like.
Yeah. So we are in the midst of just getting ready to rebrand ourselves a little bit. We've been McCarthy Communications for 10 years now. And as of January 1st, we're going to formally announce our new name, which is McCarthy Communications. And a little tagline, momentum for healthcare. So we are squarely niched in the healthcare industry. And what we do, for those who may not be familiar with messaging, I think the general public has become more aware of messaging recently because of all the political campaigns, how they talk about, so-and-so needs to sharpen up their message, or so-and-so's got a really good message and it's resonating. Well, that's the heart of it. It's something for people to grasp onto and remember and relate to about your company. So we have developed a proprietary process. It's unique to us, but after doing this many, many, many times, it's a process where we guide people through to this point where we let go of a lot of things, help them let go of a lot of things that sound just too much like their competition, very Me Too, and really hone in on what makes their business or their program or a certain industry issue that they want to speak out on. What do they have to say that makes them different and makes them stand out? Or if it's a program or part of their business, how's it unique? What's their special sauce?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we do. And the benefit of what we do, once you have that really solid story to tell about yourself, what happens is that internally teams can really be united around that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're united, you can make decisions faster, you can move ahead, and just overtake your competition. So
awesome.
It's really about the effect is first internal, and then it's external as you all begin to tell that same story outwardly to the world.
Really latch onto that story, resonate with that story,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes outward. That's
right,
really cool.
Because everybody wants to be nobody wants to be out of step. Am I saying this right? Am I carrying the party line, or or not? And so once people have that comfort and knowledge that this is what we have agreed to say about ourselves, and there's been a lot of work and effort and research put into how we say it, then they can really have confidence, and that's what it's about.
That's great. So what are some of the favorite projects you've worked on, or that you guys are working on right now?
Yeah, let me think about that. Yeah, let me think about that for a moment. Okay. I'm trying to come up with an example that's not, super complicated. That's a little tough. You know what? Maybe an easy one that's top of mind is... let me think for a minute here. An easy one that might be top of mind is telehealth. We had a client of ours who, and this is what happens as companies grow, you have all these different divisions, and telehealth being up and coming, new technology, and not as widely adopted as you would think right now, but all the signs and signals are there that it will be very big in the future once people warm up to it. So they have all these different parts of the business that are realizing this is important new technology. It's very, consumer oriented, kind of puts the consumer in the driver's seat. And they're all working at different paces, different rates, different focus on how do we incorporate telehealth into what we're doing. Telemedicine, same thing, just different word. And so what you find is that at an enterprise-wide level, with all these different things happening, how do you talk about it in unison? And you have to find a way to talk about it that's more than just the sum of all of its different pieces. Like, why are we pursuing this? What good does it have for our customers or members? And how's it going to make a difference in their lives? So we were able to take that big step back, talk to people throughout the organization, and interview them, and really find common threads that they didn't even know they had amongst each other. It's a lot like the left hand not talking to the right hand, and only there are probably 25 different hands involved in a big corporation like that. It's back to the octopus.
Yeah.
Octopus is an image, I guess, that I've begun using a lot as I talk about our business, because you've got all those arms flowing in different directions, all tangled up. And what we do is help them to flow in unison and make some progress. So after interviewing folks around the company and sort of analyzing what we heard, taking a look at what other companies, competitors of theirs were doing and saying, I should say, publicly about their telehealth efforts, we were able to put together a platform for them that really walked through with their own unique style. How do we define telehealth? why does it matter in this point in time, in the way healthcare is evolving? Why does it matter at this point in time? How do we go about it in a way that's special and differentiating? And how does it make a difference, in the lives of those we touch? So that was a favorite project because it was very interesting, and because as time goes on here, I'm just seeing how much more people are gravitating toward that technology.
So can you just kind of define for us what telehealth is? I think I have an idea, but
Yeah. Sorry, I should have done that from the beginning. But so telehealth is the use of various types of technology. It could be, typically it's almost like Skyping. Sometimes there's texting involved with your doctor, patient and doctor. And it's the way that it's often used is a few different ways. It could be just, a reoccurring, I continue to get strep throat repeatedly. My doctor knows I repeatedly get it. Or urinary tract infections, things that you go back to the doctor over and over again in the past, where you could just do a quick telehealth visit and then be on your way, check in with the doctor and, get your prescription and be on your way. Other ways that it's being used is for like rural health, where they just don't have the number of providers out in the country, rural areas. And so they can use telehealth to, speak to a doctor at, say, University Hospital, or I guess I shouldn't be advertising for these, or Children's Hospital or whatever, access to specialists to get the care they need when they don't have it locally. And then one other way that I think is really interesting, and it's so counterintuitive, is with mental health, behavioral health.
I've heard of that. People doing, phone sessions or Skype sessions with their mental health providers.
It sounds so wrong when you first think about it. I mean, it's such a personal thing, and to be doing that remotely over technology, sort of doesn't feel very right. But there's a big shortage of psychiatric health providers nationwide. And so again, this is a technology that could give people access to that. And then the other thing too is you don't have to leave your home.
If you have agoraphobia and you really can't leave your home, or you don't have the ability to have somebody drive you or whatever, it really does provide that service to somebody who might not have access to it or have barriers to access.
That's a perfect example.
That's really cool.
And if you're just, I don't know if someone may just, the anxiety you feel in the waiting room, just for really personal things. It's, am I going to run into somebody I know or whatever? You obviously don't have that when you're doing it from your dining room table.
That's really awesome.
So so those are that was a favorite project, and some of the kind of interesting ways that technology is being used.
It's fascinating to me. I love that, and I love how things are evolving. We are being able to reach people through technology that probably couldn't have been reached in the last 10 years or 20 years.
Right. Yeah. Over some pretty critical health issues too. Behavioral health is a huge need. And if you live, out in the rural areas, it's just you may not be able to get the help you need otherwise. So this kind of ties them to the bigger cities.
I love that. So really, my next question for you is how healthcare messaging has changed in the last 30 years, and what are the big leaps you've seen and the big adjustments that have been made
in messaging itself? I think. See, I'm trying to take a step back. I think that one of the biggest ways that healthcare messaging and communications in general has changed is that there has been an enormous shift, a focus on communicating with the consumer, which was not there 10 years ago. And not to the extent that it is now, even 5 years ago, I would say. And the shift that's been taking place is that healthcare organizations themselves are very focused today on what's called value-based care. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or encountered that. And it's basically the idea that if we can, if we can manage costs and at the same time deliver better care and better quality, then that's going to lead to a better consumer experience. And the reason it matters today, and it didn't, unfortunately matter so much in the past, is that people weren't paying for as much of a chunk of their health care as they are today. If you get your health care through an employer, you're paying for more of it than you were ever before. And that's when you pay for something, when there are dollars involved and it's coming out of your pocket, you want to have more of a voice. And so that's the reason why companies are trying to cater more to individual consumers today.
Because that's who's paying them now.
And to make it a better experience and better experience for them, and also to just increase the value. There's been a lot of debate about in this country, how are we getting the value out of the healthcare system? Is it efficient? Is it
working?
Yeah, and and is it a good experience? So there hasn't always been. I'm sorry, I'm like umming a whole lot. I need to say this. Let me start over.
I speak with lots of M's too.
So anyway, I'm going. So value-based care has been what's prompting these organizations to pay more attention to the consumer, and also just throughout the industry, the forces are such that we're all under pressure to increase the quality of care and at the same time manage the costs. And that's just, it leads to better value. It's true.
I love it. I think it's good that it has the focus has shifted on taking care of the consumer.
Yeah, it's such a positive thing.
Understanding what they need.
It's such a positive thing, because this is an industry that is very personal and ties to the individual. It's about people. And I think that got lost for a number of years when it wasn't so much about the individual, but it was more about the employer, or who's the bottom line and who's paying for the care. And that's still important, but it can be both. And I think organizations are making great strides in organizing their companies in a way that it delivers both, and from a communications perspective, really speaking to that individual person that's going to benefit. So we all would like to see our healthcare costs be more under control, and we all would like to feel good about the interactions that we have when we go to see a doctor or deal with a health insurance plan. We want to feel good about it and be treated like a human being. So
that's really interesting.
It's
I was
positive.
just thinking that, when did Kaiser start doing their radio ads? Like, maybe 5 years ago, 10 to 5, 5 to 10 years ago, because they were kind of the pioneers in the, consumer first, based healthcare. And now everybody has to kind of, move that way.
You're probably thinking about their Thrive campaign. Yeah. Which was really about more than being treated just when you're sick, but about how can you use your health care plan to be healthier all around and to thrive, to be better. So they were kind of the front runners on that. And you're right, that was, I don't know how long ago, 5-10 years ago, but
it hasn't been that long. That's really interesting. I love it. So how has the consumer changed?
How has the healthcare consumer changed over the years? When in the past, when there was so little connection between a person's, wallet and, the care that you get, we're all like that. We're human beings. We don't pay attention to things that don't affect us on an individual level. But what changed over time was that because the costs of healthcare have been rising at such a rate, companies got to the point where, in order for them to stay whole, and profitable, they really needed to to ask their employees to chip in for care. And once people see how that affects them, then you become much more interested in what things cost. Where can I get the best deal?
Mm-hmm.
Am I really getting value from this? Am I getting better? Am I getting healthier? And if there are programs that are available to, help me lose weight or to really feel and be the best that I can be, then I want to take advantage of that. So I think the consumer has become much more aware of the costs of healthcare and therefore much more engaged.
I think that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, Carly and I were talking about this. There's a lot of, there's some doctors that have gone to just private pay, and there's a lot of like alternative healthcare that is just cash only.
Right. Yeah.
And a really big shift to that too, I think, for the consumer.
Right. And it may have been almost unthinkable, again, like, say 20 years ago, that those kinds of businesses could have made it and done well, being cash only. But in this day and age, I think people are willing to pay for what they see value in. And so if it's a good, strong provider that they want to see, they probably see the value in paying for that out of pocket. And that
has shifted.
Yeah,
because my mom would never think of paying out of pocket, for something, and I'm like, oh yeah, most of my care is
right.
Out
you
of
just
pocket.
Use your insurance, right?
Yeah, and most of my care is out of pocket because the people that I trust
that you want to see,
people I want to see, are cash only.
Okay. Yeah, and that depends. I think some health plans do a real good job of seeking out the best in any given area. And if their provider network is really top notch, then there's less reason for people to want to go out of network. Yeah. But not all health plans operate like that, unfortunately.
Well, and not all practitioners want to deal with the insurance side. They're like, that's 5 hours of admin a day or whatever, and it's just not worth. I could be doing patient care for that amount of time.
Yeah, unfortunately, some have just given up, I think. And if you can make it on your own, more power, to you. And there's certain specialties, I guess, that lend themselves to that. But yeah, I think some have given up because of the hassles of things. And again, I think smart health plans try to reduce that. That's kind of a term, the hassle factor.
The hassle
factor. If you can get rid of the hassle factor, that's a real joy to the physician, a real reason to do business with an insurer.
That's awesome. So you started your own business after working for a large corp for many, many years. What prompted the move?
Yeah.
And how is running a small business different than working for a large corporation?
Yeah, my career path was kind of in and out and in and out and in and out of companies. And I actually started my first business. I went out on my own for the first time when I was 23 years old, I think, like a baby. And it's because I had learned so much at the small PR agency that I worked with. It was so small that I did a bit of everything, from prospecting for new business to writing proposals, doing the client work, drawing up the invoices at the end of the month, and making the phone calls if they did not pay us on time. So that was an awesome experience for a young person, and it really prepared me well to know what to do when you go off on your own. And I was just kind of a freelancer type the first time I went out on my own, did a lot of media relations work. But then I went to work for one of my clients, and that was my career path, kind of in and out and in and out. And the reason, I think, is because I really loved being independent and loved building something from scratch, which is what you do when you start your own business. Yep. And yet when I was, in my 20s and stuff, I always felt like maybe I got out of the whole corporate thing too soon. So I would take a job and go back in. And I enjoyed both experiences, but I think that I'm where I really belong. And it's been 10 years now since I've had this company. And what we do is serve large corporations, ironically. But I feel a lot of freedom being on the other side and serving them from the outside, because you get less caught up in the politics of a place. And that's what I tend to find, just personally, I find stressful, upsetting, etc.
You don't have to deal with any of that.
Yeah, a little bit, maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. You get a little bit of it when you're interviewing all the people, probably.
Yeah, you do get a little bit of it as you're working through a project, and there are always those people and personalities we started off talking about. But for the most part, having had the experience on the inside, and most of my team members and I do have quite a bit of that experience, you know how a company works, and you know how just how it operates, and what it takes to get approvals, and the politics, that have to be tended to as well. But there's a certain freedom with being on your own. And that's, I think, what I love so much about having my own business, and yet still being able to have grown it to the point where I'm really surrounded by these great people who have many years of experience in this field themselves. And it's nice to have that team and not to be completely solo. So I think we enjoy each other, and we're all really committed to doing the best thing for our clients. And they view our clients as their clients as well. That's the kind of person I like to associate with.
I love it. And then you guys can help each other too. You're not doing it on your own, and
having
to know every piece.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of value in getting a second set of eyes on things, or one other perspective, before it goes to the client. It makes our work much better, because we can rely on each other in that way that you described.
I love it. I love it. So what have you implemented in your business that you would have liked to see in those large corporations, in those larger businesses?
Gosh. Let me think for a minute. I think that, I don't know, maybe there are ways that we've implemented this, but it's more of a spirit about things. And that is, I guess our spirit is about being there for each other, just like we were just talking about. Another team member you can reach out to get that second opinion, and to make the work itself better in the end. So there is a collegial spirit that I can't say that didn't exist entirely at the companies that I've worked for, but I think it's pretty strong in what we do, and I think that makes it enjoyable, certainly for myself, and I think for the others too. We've operationalized it in a sense, in that we do have a list of values, that really reflect the people came before the list of values, and so we really reflected on what is important to all of us, what is it about the way that we interact with each other and the values that we hold that allow us to do this kind of work and the quality of work that we do for our clients. So I would say that's it. It's kind of a spirit of teamwork and having each other's backs, and ultimately all for the service of the client.
So before I ask my last question, what is the easiest place for people to find you?
The easiest place is probably McCarthyMessaging.com.
All right. We'll get that linked in the description box for everybody. Final question.
Yes.
What is the number one thing businesses need to nail down when it comes to their messaging, in your opinion?
The wheels are turning here.
I know.
For that,
I can see
one top thing.
That one top thing that everybody needs.
The number one thing that companies need to nail down is what makes them distinctive. And every company has that distinctive special sauce for whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's a program or a division of the business or an issue that they want to speak out on. There is something special that they have to offer, and it's a matter of uncovering that. And it's also equally a matter of letting go of the things that are just don't rank as high a level of importance and that don't set you apart from others. And that's kind of a trick because there's a lot that's really embedded in companies. You know, this executive likes to say it that way or this way, or we need to work that in. And sometimes it takes very diplomatically working through that because just because you've always said it that way or expressed it that way doesn't mean that it's necessarily helping you. It doesn't mean that it's setting you apart. And so I would say cling to what makes you distinctive and be willing to let go of some of the rest that doesn't serve you.
I love it. That's super helpful.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, right? It's simple.
It's very hard to do. Yes.
And it's simple, but it's not easy.
No, and that's, I think, why we exist, because let me tell you, trying to do that for my own company is very difficult. I had to bring in somebody from the outside to give us a little outside perspective, because you get so wrapped into the way we've always done things. We all do that. And so I think that's why we exist, because we can be that outside set of eyes and ears that can really help you separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. What's really special, makes you unique, different from what everybody else is saying.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Jamie, for having me. This was great fun.
Hey y'all, thanks for listening. If you found this podcast to be inspiring, helpful, and entertaining, please like and subscribe. This helps us grow the community and reach more people. If you are interested in learning more about this episode's guest or accessing any of the books or other resources mentioned in this episode, be sure to check out the description box below. Until next time, be abundant.